further ado, I need to I'll get ready to turn it over to another set of our colleagues, Jenny and her team from Voxpop, who are going to present to us about their interactive that features role playing for US history and civics. So take it away, Jenny and team.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us. I'm a game designer at Voxpop. I'm joined by Greg, who's a designer and co-founder, Tamara, who is a teacher in Atlanta, and two of Tamara's students, Christina and Milan, who will be here to answer some questions later on. We're going to start today by doing a quick run through of Voxpop so you can see what it's like, and then we'll end with a discussion with Tamara, Christina, and Milan. So I will share my screen and try not to do it wrong. Oh no, I'm so sorry. Greg, would you mind explaining Voxpop a little while I reset my computer? Although you're still muted.
So Voxpop is a platform of role-playing simulations, historical role-playing simulations, and we've got about 5 right now. We have them on the Shays Rebellion, the Nullification Crisis, the Door Rebellion, which is a fun deep cut of Rhode Island history, the Poland strike, and one on the AIDS epidemic, the early AIDS epidemic in San Francisco. And so it was developed with a grant from SBIR and DOE, and the Pullman strike. Sorry, the Pullman strike. And yes. So we've had the good fortune of working with a bunch of students and other folks over the last couple of years to develop them and try them out. Jenny's back.
Thank you, Greg. I'm so sorry. Okay, so now I must try again to share my screen. I think it is going to work. So, can people see my screen?
Yes, we can now.
Okay, amazing. So, oh wow, people have already logged in. Incredible. So if you'd like to play along as we go, you can join the URL that's shown on that screen. This is the teacher display. So this would be projected on the class projector or smartboard while students log in on their individual devices. I'll also post the information in the chat. I see that you can all see the chat, which is somewhat unfortunate. I'll try to push it to the side for now. So I'll keep that information will stay in the chat, and while people log in, I'll start playing some of the videos that we have. The idea is that teachers should be able to run this without too much prep. And so you'll see, we'll be playing a couple of the tutorial and the history videos that provide the necessary information for students. And please let me know if you can't hear this. No audio. Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to try it the old-fashioned way.
History is made by people. Not just presidents and senators, but by citizens. We come together and sort out the shape of our society. We each bring our own interests and perspectives to the challenge. Figuring out how to work together and move forward is the hard but crucial work of our democracy. Today, you'll be taking history into your own hands as you and your classmates navigate a major crisis from America's past. You will each be assigned a character. Your job as a player is to represent your character's interests, whether or not you personally agree with them. Try to see the world from their perspective. Role-playing history comes with a special responsibility. It's about understanding the past, not mimicking it. American history is full of joys and tragedies. And as historians, it's important that we understand how and why tragedies happened without trying to recreate traumatic experiences. So we're going to ask that you avoid speaking with accents or using words that are offensive by today's standards. We're not here to impersonate historical figures. We're here to understand them. By understanding each other's perspectives, we can work together for a better future. Now we'll watch a video that sets up the historical background you need to know.
Okay, I see that it looks like people in the chat are helping other folks log in, which is great. So I will just keep going. Although I will say that information is here as well in case the teacher needs to pull it up as students come in. So we will watch another video that provides the historical background that students need in order to, and that you need in order to participate in the role play. I apologize. I did play this before, so I hoped that would mean it didn't need to load again, but it looks like it's forgotten all the hard work it did only 10 minutes ago to play this very video. Also, my internet is not very good. Okay, I'm sorry. Because my internet is not cooperating, Greg is going to stream, so I will stop sharing. Well, I'll wait for it to load and give him my login information. So when you log into the way teachers save their progress in the class is that they just enter their email, and then they can save sessions over time in case you want to split a session up over multiple classes. So what Greg is doing right now is logging in as me in order to pull up the information. Okay, great. Greg, if you're ready to stream, I'm so sorry, everybody. Oh, and I think you're muted, Greg.
Okay, everyone can see the screen, I assume. Okay.
We do see your children.
1787, and Massachusetts just faced the first
Greg, we see your kids, not the video.
Oh, wrong screen.
But they're very cute.
Yeah. Is that better? Now do you see them?
No.
Sorry.
Oh, there it is.
the founding of our country. 10 years ago, colonists rebelled against British rule. Rich and poor paid dearly for the right to govern ourselves. After the war, the Massachusetts was deep in debt. It raised taxes on land, which hit farmers hard. Across central and western Massachusetts, thrown in jail and lost all their because of their debts. For Westerners who already felt ignored by the new state government they had fought for, these jailings were the last straw. By the end of last year, armed protesters were shutting down government buildings across the state. This January, Daniel Shays led a group of rebels to take over the federal armory in Springfield. They were quickly stopped by a private militia, mostly funded by merchants in Boston. 4 rebels died in the fighting. We're here today to decide how the state should respond to the rebellion. People in the West, calling themselves regulators, say that it's their duty to regulate the government when it betrays the values of the American Revolution. If we rebelled against a king for taxation without representation, it is justified to rebel against the state government for the same thing. But merchants say that rebelling against an elected government is totally different. After all, in Massachusetts, you can change things peacefully and legally by voting. If we don't punish rebels and set an example for the rest of the country, the United States might fall apart before it's even had a chance to figure things out. Farmers say that the Shays Rebellion shows that the state can't keep jailing people for failing to pay their debts. Right now, the government is only working for rich people in Boston. We need a government that works for everyone. But the Massachusetts state government owes money to bankers. And bankers say that if the state made a promise to pay its debts, the state has to keep that promise. Or else who will ever trust us or our elected officials? How should we hold citizens and state governments accountable? Is armed protest ever justified? And if someone rebelled against the government, do they still deserve a say in how that government is run? Our new country is still figuring out these basic questions. What we decide now will set a precedent for the future of our state and our country. How should we respond to the Shays Rebellion?
Great. So I see on your screens, those of you who are logged in, you should see your own profile. Greg's got a merchant profile pulled up. Once the students are finished reading their profiles, they click the yellow button, finished reviewing. And so you can see when your students are ready to move on to the next stage. I have a couple profiles pulled up. Okay. Okay, in the interest of time, we'll keep going. So at this point not in real life, in class in person, what we would do is then have students get up and walk around and introduce themselves to each other, which is a really great moment to get into character and also just, move around the classroom is always fun. Remotely, what teachers have been doing is asking each student to share their profiles. So here, Tamara posted her profile in the chat, which is excellent. Thank you so much. I think since that profile is there, we should probably keep going. Again, I don't want to cut into, I already had so much time with technical difficulties. So if we could move on, Greg. Here's a tutorial video that we won't play. It just explains that students are about to meet and work in groups. And next is when the students meet in small groups. So it's one thing that was really important to us was to have different size groups so that students who are a little more shy could work in a smaller group and feel comfortable. So here on Greg's on the right, you can see what merchants are working with. They are asked the discussion question, who should be trusted with government power? and they are tasked with formulating a response. And each group has their own questions. So for me as a farmer, my group's question is, why should the government treat everyone fairly? If you can move on, Greg.
Sure.
Thank you. So now the program will call on each group one by one, and it also lists the students who are in that group, which helps teachers know, Chrome, which is me, Chrome is probably comfortable speaking in front of the class. So if no one volunteers, then you can ask Chrome to go represent the farmers. So it will, as we click next, you see it goes through each question. And the bankers, the regulators, does the state live up to the revolution's values? They're all given a question that has a moral weight that allows them to all find an ethical justification for their perspective. And that's very important for us to make sure that every student has like a defensible opinion. So next, we move on to the more, there are 3 issue videos that summarize the crisis. We chose 3 issue videos because 3 issues because students can then be broken up into groups accordingly. We're going to skip watching these videos for time, but they go into more depth into some of the issues that we touched on in the introduction video. So we'll skip these. And here, this video I will actually just play in full so you can see what we are doing next.
Now it's time to work with other groups and find solutions. We're going to break today's town hall into 3 issue committees. In your committees, read and discuss the proposals. Your personal devices will display your group's opinion on each proposal. Your committee must choose one proposal to forward to a town hall vote. If your committee is stuck in a tie, you will deadlock and fail to submit anything to the town hall. This is your chance to shape our response. Will you stand strong for your values? Or will you try to find a compromise that works for everyone?
Great. So on Greg's screen on the right, this is the student's screen. He is given the choice between 2 proposals. And as you see on the left, the students have been broken up into 3 issue committees. Each committee contains members of different groups. So in the finance committee, you've got farmers, merchants, they probably want different things. This is another small group session where people vote on their favorites. So if everyone who's playing along wants to take a look, yeah, this sounds good to me. I'm opening up my student panel.
Ooh, sell public land. Always a popular option.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Great. If we could move on. So this video explains that it's time to debate and vote on the proposals one by one. And I'm summarizing these videos because, as Tamara may have mentioned, we tried to make this an easy lift on teachers. And so in theory, a teacher can just kind of click next and the videos will tell you what you're supposed to do. If Greg could click next. Great. So here we would ask a member of the finance committee to tell us why everyone should vote for sell public land. Next, please. And we often ask for pros and cons. People who are playing along at home, you should be able to vote yes or no. There are many good reasons to sell public land to raise funds. The government needs money. No one is occupied. Everyone's sold on selling public. You know what? I don't need to say anything more. Greg, could you move on to the next one? Great. So representation, the Disqualification Act. This is pretty tricky. Should people who participated in the Shays Rebellion have their right to vote temporarily suspended? You know, it's a tough call because they did march on the government with weapons. Just, you know, I don't want to get too political, but arguably not very good form. But I see, okay, not popular. All right, let's move on. And finally, the law committee has decided oath of allegiance. If rebels sign a confession and take an oath of allegiance to the state, they will not be executed or imprisoned. A fairly generous response to, what could be seen as a very harsh crime. So I don't know if anyone else wants to throw in their votes. Again, we're like really rushing through this. This should take at least an hour, but we have finally reached the end. So Greg, if you could hit next. If you could hit next again, actually, sorry. Here there will be this is the beta, so things are a little out of order, but first there'll be an epilogue video that explains what really happened. And then Greg, if you could hit previous, you see some discussion questions that link the events of the role play to the present day, and then also show the students what they did and how that differed from the real history. So does anyone, there have been many questions popping up in the chat and I haven't been reading them. So I don't know.
Actually, excellent job in addressing most of them. Much faster than I am. I'm like, whoa, never mind.
Yeah, Tamara's been answering everything. Tamara, is there anything that we should address?
I just think, so Jim had asked, are we allowed to vote on proposals which made it into the historical record of the time? So I, in short, said yes, but I know that you all may have a different opinion. So that's why I said I'll allow Jenny or Greg to address that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a great question. So that's one of the tricky balances that we've had with Voxpop. We look for proposals that are historically relevant, that are based in something that might very well have happened, but often we do look for proposals. Sometimes we look for proposals that are more on the radical end because we want, it's a balance between having students realize that the issues that people were facing in the 18th century are still issues that live on today. All of the proposals, for example, that you voted for, they all actually happened, including the Disqualification Act, but you were more generous than people were at that time.
I think you kind of to go along with that, and this kind of the question came up earlier too about what voices and peoples are we representing here, and what we're trying to do is kind of go back and make sure, like even with some of the things like with the nullification one, for example, we definitely include like abolitionists within the discussion, though they might not have had as big a say in South Carolina. We want to represent the idea that there were many other things and ideas going on at all those times, and so. Trying to give voice to some of those and showing, how that would have added to the conversation.
Right. And as you see, Tamara was given a profile where of a Black person during the Shays Rebellion who couldn't vote. But of course, in the game, she can vote, as can everyone. And so you do end up with kind of like there's this kind of like meta lesson of like, well, if more voices had been allowed in the room, how would the outcome have been different? And it's very important for us to represent those voices. I know Tamara is incredible. Tamara ran like 3 Vox Pops by herself before we even knew that she was running them.
To the saving, it does save your sessions. You can also create multiple sessions. So if you have like different periods, different people, if you're running it in different class periods, you can have sort of multiple periods going and then log in and log out for the different ones.
I see a question about how long it takes. We recommend an hour, although often teachers will split it into 2 40-minute periods. It's a little faster in person than it is online, depending on whether you do breakout rooms, which are always a mess as far as I can tell. It's free, yes. Thank you. Free 99. So thanks to the generosity of the ED, IES, SBIR grant, we are able to offer our core role plays for free. So to teachers. So right now we have running the Shays Rebellion, the Door Rebellion, the Nullification Crisis, the Pullman Strike, and the AIDS Crisis. And we are working on the Civil Rights Movement and the New Deal. And so those will be released hopefully either before or at the very least during next school year. I do know I don't want to put any students on the spot, but we do have some students from Tamara's class here who played Voxpop. So if anyone has any questions for them.
I actually have 4 students. Adam, Milan, Christina, and Latasha are here.
Oh.
And they are all rising 9th graders.
Nice.
Hi, Christina.
And I just want to say, like, it's there was a question about prep. The prep is there; it's minimal. They do have PDFs for each of the simulations, and if you just read through the PDF, it's like step-by-step directions to make it super easy for you. I didn't really prep that much for the first time, and I kind of figured it out as I went along. And someone had asked about the time period. It can take 60 minutes. With the students that I have in here today, it did take longer. They had some really great discussions when they were proposed with questions. And so it lasted a little bit longer, but they were nearly begging for me to do more because they loved it. Yeah, I did play this year. And we did it virtually. So we did it through Zoom. We used Zoom all year. I can't wait though to actually do it in the fall in person.
It is more fun in person. It is more fun in person. But sitting in on Tamara's class was great. We got to see, this is aimed at high school students, but Tamara students who are in 8th grade just totally killed it. Trying to see what other questions come up. I know we have like 3 minutes.
Scholars, my legends, what do you think was the best part of the exercise?
I think the best part of it was that we got to interact with other people. Like we got to go in breakout rooms when we needed to answer the questions. So it was fun and we got to talk to more people.
Yeah, like Milan said, it was fun, but I liked what I liked really was getting to see different people's point of view and see how they think about certain issues and stuff like that.
My favorite part was taking on the mindset of another person's because I was placed in positions that I probably would not have thought about, and it made me think of that situation in a different way.
I think that was like my absolute favorite part because, you know, as a teacher, when you try to get children to do a debate and they're like, oh, I want to be on the pro side, oh, I want to be on the con side because they have such strong feelings for it. And so with these, they were able to be forced to be put in a different role and think outside the box and critically think to see how this historical situation played out.
I have to say, the students do such a good job of taking different perspectives. We've play tested with like college students, and they often feel like they have to say like, I don't really believe this, but the whole point is, of course, that we, you know, to occupy a mindset that you don't believe or that you don't agree with. Yeah. I suppose I have one more question for We can get, if we get cut off, that's fine. Which is in an ideal school year, how many Vox Pops would you want to use?
I would love if there was one for every unit. That would be amazing, because it's kind of like another way to assess and engage and get the children to understand the topic a little bit more deeply. But if there weren't, and like whatever Vox Pops you have, I'll do them all. I'll fit it into my curriculum. I'll do them all, no problem.
And how many units are in a year?
For me, I have 11.
11.
Yeah.
That's a good goal. That's a good
Yeah,
goal.
and for a little additional perspective, I teach Georgia studies, which is basically U.S. history with a Georgia lens. And so the nullification crisis, I used it because it's right next to Georgia. But it was very, very helpful, and they worked it out really well.
Wow, Jenny, what an incredible testimonial to end our session with, is like, whatever you make, I'm going to use. you can't ask for better than that. And Tamara, thanks for bringing your students and for them sharing their voices with us, because it's nothing like hearing, students say, yeah, this was great. I enjoyed it. And especially the things that they said about how it made me take different perspectives, look at other opinions. I mean, that's very powerful. Obviously, this is a great project and a great learning tool.